And I'll finish that report. Thank you. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it. We got our Zoom, we got our phone set up this morning. And to Max Taylor online. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. I will call this meeting to order of the Truckee Meadows Water Authority Board of Directors on January 21st, 2026 at 10 a.m. Ms. Folsom, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Anderson,
Here.
Andriola,
Present.
Dewar, not present. Hill, not present. Martinez.
Here.
Taylor. Online, you have to mute yourself. Thank you. Can you hear us?
Recording in progress.
All right. Good morning, Member Taylor. Can you hear us?
Here.
Perfect. Thank you.
Here.
Zimmerman.
Here.
And Kabelia. Present. We have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. If everyone would join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll move to public comment at this time.
Anybody online wishing to speak, please open. Madam Chair, Member Hill is also online.
Thank you.
I'm going to promote her to the panelist, so I'm going to mark her as a I do not have anybody online at this time.
Thank you. We'll move now to item number 5, approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Member Anderson and a second by Member Vanderwell. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Move now to item number 6, which is the approval of the minutes of the December 11th, 2025 meeting of the TMWA Board of Directors. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Madam Chair, move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Member Vanderwell, a second by Member Martinez. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We'll move to item number 7, which is a discussion and action and possible direction to staff regarding appointments to the Standing Advisory Committee to fill vacancies. And the information has been shared in our packet. So I don't know, Ms. Folsom, are you, who's handling this one?
Oh, yes, me.
I think so.
One of those mornings.
That's all right.
All right. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Sonia Folsom for the record. I had to bring this back to you since I had not heard from Ban by our meeting last month for the reappointment of Justin McDougall. Colin Hayes stepped down as primary and Justin McDougall was serving as alternate, and he has been promoted to primary to represent Ban. And their alternate is vacant at this time, but that's their choice to appoint or not appoint. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Folsom? We should come up with a question for you.
Oh.
You know, this is just going too fast. Hearing no questions, thank you, Ms. Folsom. I'll entertain a motion to approve Justin McDougall with the ban appointment for the Standing Advisory Committee.
I move to approve, Madam Chair, with Justin McDougall representing BAN as the primary.
Great. Do we have a second? We have a second by, a motion by Member Anderson, a second by Member Vanderwell. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We'll move now to item number 8, which is the water supply update. Ms. Steelin.
Good morning, board. Did I mess it up?
Well, for $10.99, we can get a timer
Oh, a 3-minute timer.
if we need it. If we need it.
I have a brief water supply update for you. I did present at the last meeting, and since then we have had some storms, thankfully. It's dried out a bit, but I made this actually last Friday, so it's a little outdated now. We were at 97% of median for snow water equivalent. We're down to 81% today, but it does look like there may be some shifts in the weather patterns starting the end of next week. So fingers crossed for that. But we are still in good shape in terms of snow water equivalent. Precipitation, with all of the rain we had in the fall, we are well above average for overall precipitation. We've just gotten much more in the form of rain instead of snow this year. So we're at 135% of median today for the Truckee River Basin. And then lastly, soil moisture has broken multiple records this fall and kind of the early winter due to, again, all of that rain we received. So that's really helpful for spring runoff. So with the soil being wetter, less water will infiltrate into the soil. It'll actually just run off into our rivers or into our river and reservoirs, which is great news for that runoff in the spring. So with that, this shows the observed and projected elevation of Lake Tahoe, and you can see that the blue shows current elevation and then the yellow is projected, and Tahoe is anticipated to get close to filling again this spring and summer, which means we'll have normal river flows for 2 to 3 years. Obviously, there's a few months left of the winter, so we'll see what happens, but with the current level of Lake Tahoe, we should be in good shape, kind of regardless of what happens for the rest of the winter. Similarly, this shows the observed and projected Truckee River flows at the state line through water year 2026. And you can see that we're anticipated to have normal river flows and meet the Florestan rate through the water year. So all good news. We're at about 71% of capacity right now for the reservoirs, and none of them have started really filling for the season. That won't occur until later. They still have the flood storage requirements in the federally owned reservoirs. So 71% is great for this time of year. Not in a drought still due to all of that rain that we've had. And this was the upcoming forecast last week. And you can see we are expected to have above average temperatures. Precipitation's kind of near normal. So fingers crossed that we do have that shift in precipitation in the weather patterns late next week, as NOAA's predicting. And with that, we're in, like I said, we're in good shape, kind of regardless of what happens, but a few more storms would be welcomed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Member Taylor or Member Hill online, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I don't.
I do not. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We'll also welcome Ms. Storr.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Nope.
Oh, thank you.
Great.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move now to item number 9, discussion and possible action on resolution number 340 that was in our packet. Welcome, Mr. Bowman
All
and
right.
company.
Yeah, brought some friends with me.
Brought some friends.
Good morning, members of the board. Matt Bowman, TMWA CFO for the record. I have with me Thomas Topfer. He's with PFM, our financial advisor. And behind me here is Ryan Henry with Taft, who is our bond counsel. So the next two items are bond items, so they can help with that. The first one here is we're looking at doing a refunding. So it's kind of a standard refunding of our 2015, 2016 bonds, about $75 million. At interest rates today, we're looking at 12% savings or about $8 million in net present value savings over the life of the bonds. Our current schedule includes pricing these bonds in late March and then closing in April. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Thomas for a quick update.
Yeah, just in general, we are benefiting from interest rates, tax interest rates being relatively low at this point for a refinancing. Your outstanding debt pays about a 5% interest rate currently, and you're able to refinance this at like a 3%, under 3% rate. So it's really advantageous to do so. We're preparing everything, getting ready to talk to the rating agencies to affirm the credit rating of the agency, and then go to market as Mr. Baumann explained in March. With that, we do have some volatile markets, so we are monitoring that and being ready when the market is opportune. And as you know, for these savings opportunities, those will only be executed when the savings are really available to you. Any questions about the general market?
Questions from anyone? Would you be so kind to just state your name and?
Of course,
and just for the record. It'd be
I'm
helpful.
Thomas Topher, Managing Director with PFM Financial Advisors.
Thank you so much. Ms. Dorr?
Yeah, just fantastic news. Wow. Being able to save $8 million, I think you said. And
Yep.
and where are we in that bond? You said 2016? So
Yeah,
we're
these
10
are
years in?
most of the refunding principal is going to be the 2016 bonds. There's a little bit of 2015 we're going to refund as well. And so we're at that 10-year call date where we can refund them. And so that's what we're looking at. And we're not pushing any of the maturities out or anything like that. Our debt service schedule is going to remain
same.
as it was.
Yeah, well, it's great news.
Mhm.
Thank you. Good job.
Mr. Anderson?
So I just want all the people that are listening in to us and as well as those that are here, I just ask that you kind of reemphasize, as I understand it, it's going to be a benefit to our customers as well as we're not actually increasing our debt. We're just changing it. So is that, okay.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, we'll likely take out some principal as part of the transaction as well. So reduce the outstanding debt. It's similar if you were refinancing your house and taking advantage of a better interest rate. You're not adding anything to the principal. So certainly a benefit to the ratepayers. Helps reduce our debt load and better structure our debt as well as savings on the interest side. And so really it's a good deal all the way around.
Right. And with that, just thank you for the work you guys are doing on this. Appreciate it.
Andrew?
Thank you. You guys said that you're going to wait to go to market until March. Do you have to because of bond maturity issues? Or if it happens to drop in February, can we capture that or do we need to wait?
I have a little bit of a timing constraint. The bonds, the 2016 bonds are callable on July 1st.
Okay.
In order to use tax-exempt debt, you cannot do it earlier than 90 days ahead of that call date. So we have that constraint. And the next topic, we'll talk about the SRF loan. It's also closing in early March. And for tax purposes, again, these two transactions have to be separated to some degree. And that's why we're timing it this way. There's also a few more steps to do. We need to talk to the rating agencies, get everything confirmed. But yeah, we would do it sooner if we could.
Yes. Okay. So with markets being volatile, okay, let's say it's at the time that you can go to market and everything else. What is the time frame that you guys have to wait for if the market happens to be volatile? What's the time frame that you can wait to lock in a lower rate?
So we will be doing everything to be ready to enter the market. If it's like a day that's very, very volatile and we don't want to, be subject to that, we can wait. The authorities working together with an underwriter and an investment bank. And so we'll be working together to look at the market when it's most opportune. But it's very nimble. So if the one day isn't good, we can go the next day or we can go the next week. So.
Okay, I didn't know if there was a time constraint that once we get into the market that, we only have, 2 weeks, 30 days to capture
You don't. You have
Okay.
this, the nice thing about this option that you have on your outstanding bonds, it's a call option. You can exercise it anytime after that certain date. Can't do it
Great.
sooner, but you can do it anytime afterwards.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I just think it's wonderful that you're always looking at the timing, and if everyone had a crystal ball, we'd all be calling you quickly too. So I do think it's really a huge statement in terms of the timing and the additional $8 million is very helpful. So with that, if there aren't any other questions or discussion, I'll entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 340.
Madam Chair, move to approve.
We have a motion by member Vanderwill. Do we have a second? We have a second by Ms. Dorr. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. So we could have you exercise your opportunity to get up for a minute and then come back, or you can just stay right there. Move to item number 10, which is discussion and possible action on resolution number 341. All the information has been provided and posted accordingly, but Mr. Bowman or anyone else that would like to share this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to write it out and stay up here. So Matt Bowman again, TMWA CFO for the record. I have Thomas Topfer with PFM and Ryan Henry with Taft behind me. Another bond item. This is SRF. And all we're doing here is changing the names of these bonds. So a very simple item in that regard. And the reason is that we will close on these when the project, we'll close on these in March. And it's in 2026. And so we want to change the names to 2026 bonds and not 2025 bonds. So the board has already approved the resolution to allow for TMWA to close on these. Now we just want to change the name. And I want to be clear, we're not talking about approval of the project here. That'll come later, at which point when the project's approved, we would start to draw on the funds. But this is just to allow us to close and really line up the funding for the American Flat project.
Any questions? I have a question. I'm wondering, obviously, whenever you name something that is clearly going to be, have a termination and not applicable, in this case, a date, is there a reason that you can't just call it the water bond, and have it? Because no one, unless you have another crystal ball, knows exactly when it's going to be exercised in its fullest capacity. And so I'm just wondering if there isn't an opportunity for that to be considered.
Might ask Ryan or Thomas to comment on
We wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to speak.
Hi, everybody. For the record, Ryan Henry from Taft Laws. As Matt stated, I serve as bond counsel to the authority. Regarding that question, I guess it's just, typical standards for bonds that you have a specific name that signifies a year. And the reason that helps is for tracking purposes, whether it be in your ACFR or in the disclosures, so that you can differentiate between the types of bonds. And you have other SRF bonds outstanding, which have a year series designation in them. And so, it's kind of been the standard over the years that we always include a series in a year. Now, in this case, when you originally adopted the SRF bond resolution in summer of 2025, obviously this project got pushed and none of us, expected that this would close in 2026. And so, as Matt described, this amendment really is just to allow for internal tracking purposes to call these series 2026A, 2026B, and 2026C. And this just helps as we get down the road and we're looking back, when these were originally issued, and then helps, keep them separate from your other SRF loans. And one thing I did want to mention, the state treasurer's office is aware of this amendment. They work on these SRF deals, and I had a very positive conversation with them about this amendment and what our intent is here, and the state treasurer's support of this amendment as well. It can get confusing if the year and the name of the bonds doesn't match the year that they were actually issued. And so, as Matt pointed out, it's just really to clean this up so that, we have 2026 in the name. But, there's no black and white answer as far as what you have to call the bonds, but just kind of industry practices that we put specifics in there, including the years, so that for tracking purposes, when you have multiple series of bonds, we can all kind of differentiate and tell them apart. Hopefully that helps.
Oh, thanks.
Sure.
Any other questions? Hearing none, then I'll entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 341.
Madam Chair, I'm willing to make a motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Anderson. Do we have a
Second.
second by Mr. Martinez? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. So now we'll move to item 11, and we're going to open up the public hearing. And I'm going to, on rule amendments. And we have, our first item in this public hearing is public comment. And Mr. McNeil has filled out. Would you like to come down, Mr. McNeil? And, oh, yeah, actually, do you want to do it at the last public comment? Do you want to do it at the first public comment? That would be great. You had put 11C, which is the next one. I don't want to give you.
Well, I'd like to maybe speak.
Well, you can. Let's do A first. Here you go.
Does this work?
I don't know. I think someone will help you.
It works, but
Yeah. So while you're getting the logistics squared away, just as a reminder, you have 3 minutes, and if you could identify your name, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you. When the timer starts. Yeah, we need to get you roller skates.
Well, good morning, Board. My name is Ken McNeil, and I sit on the Standing Advisory Committee. And I just want you to know that anything that I say today is my opinion. It's not the opinion of the Standing Committee. I also want to thank Matt Bowman, Sean Stoddard, and Catherine Hansford from Hansford Economic Consulting for answering my questions about the rate study. My questions were an attempt to do some fact-finding. For many reasons, this rate study is very difficult to understand and comprehend. That's why I had a lot of questions. And after much thought about this study and the answers to my questions, I think that the proposed meter changes are not fair. The proposal is to anyone who has a meter in the residential larger than 1 inch would only pay the 1 inch meter charge. And you've got like a 4-inch meter, they should be paying $362, but they'd only be paying $33.21. Of course, for other meters, it's less, but still, it doesn't seem fair. And the reason this doesn't seem fair is the cost has to be made up somehow. And that's made up by other residential customers. That's 120,000 other customers are going to have to make up the difference. I don't think that's fair. I think the argument is that it's not a lot of money. But does that impact whether it's fair or not? I don't think so. I think if you shift any cost onto another customer, no matter what it is, it's not fair. Also, on the rate study on page 4, there's a statement about meter sizes larger than 1 inch. They do not correlate with safe operating capacity or lot size. I have no idea what safe operating capacity means. I can't find anything in the rate study which clearly defines what that means. I also asked a question about the need for a 2 or 3 or 4 inch meter for residential customers. If you look at attachment A on your agenda item 11, page 7 of 7, that's not answered. So I think I know what the need is, but it wasn't answered by TMWA. Also, there is a mention that North Las Vegas limits their residential meter charges at 1 inch. But there's no explanation as to why they do that. Is North Las Vegas the same as TMWA? I don't think so. Every water agency has differences. So what is their reasoning? Also, it doesn't mention that.
Yeah, I see. I'm sure that you're aware that we've got the zeros straight across the board.
I just looked at that.
So, and
I'm
I just
sorry.
saw it too. And everybody's been so kind to help remind me as well.
I
So
understand.
I'm
I
going to help
understand.
remind you as
No,
well.
I certainly
And
understand.
I appreciate that you'll have that opportunity with 11C. And
Yes.
we'll be calling you back. And
Okay.
thank you so much.
Sure.
And Madam Chair, I'd just like to ask whenever we get to the presentation, if they could try to address the question. Thank you.
Fair enough. So is there any additional public comment just to ensure that there might not be anyone online or?
If anyone online wishes to speak, please raise your hand. Not have it.
Thank you. So we'll move now to 11B, which is the rule amendment and the first reading of this public hearing, and Mr. Bowman.
Wait for the presentation up. It's not up. Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
I could.
no, it's fine. Yeah. I've been getting my presentation items mixed up.
All right, we're good to go. Okay, members of the,
We can't see it on our screen.
oh,
Okay,
there we go.
there you go. That was magic.
Okay, members of the board, thank you for having me. Matt Bowman, TMWA CFO for the record. I have Dr. Sean Stoddard next to me here, Senior Resource Economist for TMWA. So this is the first reading of proposed rate changes resulting from a cost of service study that we completed in 2025. Our recommendation is for the board to refer to a second reading in February for structure changes to our water rates, again, resulting from the results of the cost of service study. So what is a cost of service study? We conducted a cost of service study based on standards from AWWA. It's really what we're trying to do here is ensure a equitable distribution of revenue between TMWA's rate classes based on the cost it actually takes to serve those rate classes. That's what a cost of service study does. And this is best practice. We're obligated to mitigate any cross-subsidization between those rate classes. And so that's what we're trying to do here. We didn't go about it alone. We hired Catherine Hansford, an expert, to guide us through this process. She really did a great job doing that. We presented the details of this cost of service study to the Standing Advisory Committee in August 2025, and then we presented it to the board in September of 2025 as well. So I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail in this presentation. Again, happy to answer any questions and address anything along the way, but I'll keep this presentation relatively high level, although all the detail is in your board packet for reference. Following the board meeting in September 25, where the board tentatively approved the cost of service study and rate design changes pending public outreach, we went out and did that public outreach. And so this slide outlines what we did. So in August, we had the Standing Advisory Committee meeting, and it was approved. The SAC approved the cost of service study. In September, we brought it to the board. In November, we sent out 67,000 bill inserts to customers. Those are all our customers who receive paper bills. It was the lead story on TMWA.com from November 2nd to December 29th. During that time, we had about 94,000 visitors to the website. We had 44 people click into the story. In that story, as well as where customers could provide feedback or questions. We sent it in our email newsletter in November of 2025 to 142,000 people. And of that, we had about a 52% open rate, which is pretty good. So people were seeing it. And then we held 2 public Zoom meetings. We had 19 attendees at those meetings. We did receive some public comment and some questions. Those are included in the board packet, so you can read through those. And included in there are the responses too. We responded to them very quickly when we got those questions. We wanted to make sure those questions were answered, and some very good questions. Including from Ken, some of his questions were in there as well. So just a little bit about what it actually is, again, at a pretty high level. One of the goals with our rate design changes from the cost of service study was to simplify the rate structure, and I think we've done that. But what this is not is a general rate increase, and so I want to be clear about this. This is not increasing the total amount of revenue that TMWA was collecting. It's changing the allocation of that revenue among the different customer groups. So on this slide, there's 2 pie charts. The one on the left, under current, shows the different customer groups and the percentage of revenue that those customer groups contribute to TMWA's total pie, if you will. And so you can see the largest there, 66%. That's our single-family residential customers. If you look at the pie chart to the right, that's what we're proposing. And so you can see some changes in those percentages. Those are the distribution changes. You'll notice single-family residential overall is going down. So going from a 66% share of the pie to 62%. The green and the orange is commercial and multifamily, and you can see some small increases there. So going from 11 to 13 and from 6 to 8% for commercial and multifamily, respectively. To the bullets at the bottom of the slide, one of the big things we wanted to do was we wanted to bring the former Washoe County customers into the TMWA rate schedule. So we had about 20,000 of those customers. They were still on their own separate rate schedules. And this goes to simplifying the rate structure. We brought them into the TMWA rate structure, so now they would be paying, along with all the TMWA rates, the same rates. The second bullet, we're increasing the level of fixed revenue from 33% to 43%. You'll see that in the meter charges, which are expanding. And then our proposed timeline for this is to be implemented in May of 2026. These tables are included in the staff report, and they were included in September as well, but I want to talk through them briefly here. The first 2 boxes on the left is the current rate schedule and the new rate schedule. So that's what we're talking about today is kind of that middle box, the one that says new rate schedule, COS. And this is just an example. This is single family residential. All the other rate classes that are being affected are included in the board packet. But what we did today, which I wanted to be clear, is we added the box to the right because the board has already ratified a general rate increase of 3.5% effective in May of 2026. And so that will occur as well. And so we thought it would be helpful to show what the rates will be for customers if the cost of service is approved, because it will include a general rate increase of 3.5% at the same time. We thought it would be best to do this at the same time versus staggering it and having customers see 2 different changes. And so that box on the right is the rates that customers will see. And you'll see that throughout your packet for all of the rate classes. And I just want to close with this. These changes are best practice. So we did a cost of service study. We looked at all of our costs and how the different customer groups contribute to those costs. And we want to ensure that the revenue collected is equitable. And then, lastly, our largest customer groups, our single family residential, about 85% of those customers are going to see a decrease on their bill as a result of this study. So that's good news for the majority of our customers. Ms. Dewar, you wanted me to address public comment. And so Mr. McNeil we've had a lot of discussion with him. And he brought up some, I think, some valid points. And specifically, he's looking at single-family residential where we've capped the meter charge at 1-inch meters. We have about 120,000 total single-family residential customers. About 800 of them have meters larger than 1 inch. About 300 of them are 1.5 inch meters. When we were looking through, I looked at some specific parcels. I said, well, who have these 1.5 inch meters? And it was across the board, but we had some lots where it would be a less than a 1/4 acre lot in the middle of a neighborhood, not much irrigation, and they had 1.5 inch meter. I don't know why they had 1.5 inch meter. We didn't look at every single one of them. We didn't go out there and investigate. But those customers would have gone from, a $40 to $50 average bill to possibly $120, $130 average bill per month if we were to do those meter charges the way that Mr. McNeil's proposing. And so we decided the best approach is to cap it at 1 inch, which, as Mr. McNeil pointed out, North Las Vegas is another entity that does that. It's not uncommon. And we felt like that was the most equitable thing to do because many of those 1.5, 2 inch meters, they're not large water users. And so they're not incurring those costs that would justify that larger meter charge. And this is really exclusive to the single family residential rate class. And so that's why we decided to cap those at 1 inch. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. And I think to Mr. McNeil's point, in what you just explained, that becomes a principle of making up, even though it's a small amount, making up the difference by somebody else actually paying for that difference. So it is kind of a principled factor. And I just, I'm wondering if you can, I know that's a principle base, but I'm wondering if there's any clarity you could.
Yeah, I do. I don't think that's an option to do that because I don't think that those customers are not incurring the types of costs that would be justified by that larger meter charge. So I don't think that's an option. Sean, Mr. Stogner, you want to say something?
Mr. McNeil is talking about the meter charges, but the single-family residential rate is the meter charges plus the volume charges. One of the things that went with that, so while we capped that meter charge at 1 inch, there was a corresponding with that same original table that he was looking at. There was an increase in the tier 2 and the tier 3 volume charges for those larger meters that had a water use greater than all the smaller meters. So some of that revenue was being captured on the volume side. So it is, you have to kind of look at both pieces together. And I do want to kind of point out, as a lot of these larger meters, these were things we inherited from Sierra Pacific Power, and many of them were originally flat rate water customers that were built in the 70s and 80s. And a lot of times, the meter that was installed was simply based on the pipe that was in the ground. So there's a lot of different instances, and a lot of it's also legacy issues. And so we did our best to take a look at their actual water use patterns and to fit the rates to the actual need.
Thanks. Thank you. Then Ms. Dorr.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. So could you go back to your previous slide? The one before, I'm sorry. Well, actually, it was this other one. The one, yeah. So at the bottom, you talk about a couple important points, and I just wanted to go over each one of those. So integrating former Washoe County rate schedules into TMWA. So overall, do you think the Washoe County residents are going to see an increase, a decrease, about the same? What's your feeling?
Decrease overall.
So Washoe County Water Resources, they were charging higher rates, but it sounds like because they've joined a larger system, they probably have the benefit of a bigger customer base. Is that the reason the rates go down?
Yeah, I mean, we inherited the rates that they had.
Right.
Which were just
And you've
higher,
continued
yes.
charging them the old rates up
Yeah.
until now?
Mhm.
So that's been what?
10 years.
Okay, I was thinking 6 years. So
Yeah.
for 10 years, you've been charging them more, and now you're actually going to lower them because that's consistent with our rate schedule.
Yes.
All right, so item 2, increasing the level of fixed revenue from 33% to 43%. Now, I have a little bit of a concern about this because I think the more we go to fixed revenue, the less impact quantity of water use matters. and you reduce the price signal. So, right, because you front loaded. And recently, NV Energy proposed the same idea with their increase in energy rates. And this was turned down. The residents wrote in overwhelmingly, and it was turned down by the PUC. And the reason is that it mutes the signal for conservation, in that case, power conservation. It also increased the impact to low-income customers because now they were paying more just to be able to turn on the light switch. In this case, they're paying more just to turn on a water switch. And I am a little concerned about it. It's a 25% roughly increase or 30% increase in the base rate. And that worries me a little. I'm one who wrote a letter to NV Energy saying they should not shift so much to a base rate. Again, it's important, conservation is important, and that is in fact why you have these very good increasing block rates where you go from your proposed 212 for the tier 1, 318 for the tier 2, and 425 for the tier 3. That's per, I don't know, 1,000 gallons, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to just talk me through that one? And then I have a question about something else too on your chart.
Yeah, thanks, Ms. Dewar. That's a good question. I'm glad you asked it because that's an important aspect of this. That's why it's on the slide. So a couple things to lay out as far as how this study was occurred is we looked at all of our costs that we incur and we broke those costs into which of those are variable and which of those are fixed. And that's really kind of what drove the need to shift this, is just an increase in the overall fixed costs that we incur.
So in that, you're talking about the water treatment plants and delivery system that are in the ground, regardless of how much water anybody uses, they're still there.
Exactly.
And I'm sure that NV Energy was saying, well, we've got all these overhead power lines and these power plants, and they're all fixed costs. But I understand the theory, but I don't know if I like the result.
Yeah.
Which is that they'll see less of a price signal. You know, conservation and the way the rates are structured now keeps me from using more water. I'm highly sensitive. I do have one of these larger meters because I was in a former county area that was annexed. It was based on the size of the pipe, to your point. I didn't have anything to do with the size of pipe of a house I bought.
Yep.
And so here's a bigger meter because it's a bigger pipe. So I tend to agree with you about that, you know, it was a matter of history. My house was built in the 50s. I mean, actually built in 1900, but 50s it was converted to a house. And so that's the time they took this ag meter, this ag pipe and turned it into a house. And that's what they did. They left it in the ground, right? So I understand where you're going there a little bit. But I am a little struggling still on this because I really do believe that price signal and water conservation, water use is an important element of what we're doing. Now, I know that the more people conserve, the less money we take in at TMWA. And we're always trying to balance that. We want to encourage conservation, but we don't want to reduce our rates so much that we have to increase the rates to balance conservation, right?
Yep.
So I understand your theory. I don't know if anyone else agrees with me, but I will tell you that the PUC said no to NV Energy's proposal to do just this. They went to about maybe 50%. I don't recall the actual split between base charge and water use, or in their case, power use. So I don't know if I'm totally comfortable with that. I generally support what you guys propose, but this one kind of struck a nerve with me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. A couple of things I want to say on that is, as far as conservation goes, I don't think we expect to see a big change in that. I think we're still going to achieve the conservation with our block rates. I expect that. And then you mentioned affordability, and I want to point out just that our tier 1 charge is actually going down a little.
I noticed that from 214 to
212. So not a big decrease, but
Right.
a little bit. So I think those customers that are maybe just using that first tier, they'll save a little bit on the volume side. And if you look at a 3/4 inch, the 3/4 inch fixed charge is actually going down as well. And so where we're recovering those fixed charges, this is just speaking to affordability. It's really going to be on those larger meters. And so that's where that's
because they're
recovering.
using more water. And so,
Yeah.
and who's in there? I mean, is golf courses in there?
That's going to be on the irrigation side. And so that table's in there as well. So those rates are changing a little bit too. The larger meters are going to pay more on the irrigation side, just like on the commercial as well.
All right, well, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know what I think about this. I'm still processing.
I think you said you had one more question.
I thought I did. There was something else you said on that
You
slide.
can come back.
It didn't track with the last, if you could change that back to the previous slide. It says proposed implementation rate. I didn't have a question about that. It was something else you said, and I said, I have to bring this up. I guess I was going to really address Mr. McNeil's comment about these larger pipe sizes and the fact that it's inherited. It's nothing anybody can do anything about it without tearing up the street in your entire water system. What really matters is how much water you're using, whether it's a 2-inch pipe or a 1-inch pipe or any size pipe. What matters is how much you're using. And we can't go tearing up, I think you had 500 and then just a couple, so like 550 homes putting in a 1-inch meter when that's all they really need. I don't think, what do they say? The juice is worth the squeeze, so to
Well, the
speak.
cost to do that would be
That's what I mean,
extraordinary.
incredible.
Mhm.
They just inherited them. They didn't make them happen.
Yeah.
Most of the people, I have to believe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? Member Hill or Member Taylor, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I do think Councilwoman Dewar does bring up an interesting point on the base rate. I also understand that it costs more to do business. And so I also hear what you're saying on, how do we incentivize conservation while ensuring that we can pay for our services. I really appreciate the history of the pipe size. That's very helpful to understand why we're looking at that the way that we are. So thank you for the clarification there.
Thank you. Member Martinez.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Bowman, for the presentation. I think I'm struggling a little bit. I share some of the same sentiments as Councilmember Dewar. It's difficult when you have to balance sort of the understanding that there is an increase to the cost of service to provide this for our customers, but we're sort of shifting, just being able to turn on a faucet as a base rate, from 33 to 43%. And so I don't know if I'm there yet in alignment with the philosophy that's being adopted or proposed. And I do share some of the sentiments in terms of conservation and incentivizing that while still being able to meet the demands of the organization and the cost of doing business. The other thing that I'm sort of struggling with, and I understand the meter sizing conversation that we're having, it's a little bit complex for me to accept that you're saying your responses about water meter size and usage are not, you're trying to separate both of those and really look at one, when in some of the responses that I read to the customers, you specifically said, the customer asked, how does this new simplified structure of single rate differentiate between heavy water users and lower water industries? And your response talks about larger water users require bigger meters to meet their demand, which means they will likely pay higher monthly customer charges. So there sort of seems to be this duality where there's an understanding that we know if you have larger meters, then you're probably going to use more water, but you're also using the same justification when you talk about, or a different justification when you're talking about single family homes, and how maybe it was inherited and the history is there, but they still have the larger meters. And so I'm having trouble wrapping my mind around how do we sort of justify and make sure that we're being equitable when we're looking at both of those things. Hopefully I'm explaining myself.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sean, do you want to address just the usage patterns between the different rate classes, specifically single family and commercial, where we really have to look at them in two separate buckets?
This is the reason why we have a commercial water rate, an irrigation, multifamily, and single family, because each one of those groups use water with their own distinctive patterns. Single family, almost no outdoor water use in the wintertime. They peak for a couple months in the summertime with their yards and that. A commercial building, whether it be a casino or a Walmart, they have a water use pattern that is not quite so seasonal and it's a little bit more engineered. And so one difference there is when a customer comes in for a commercial, they come in with a request for a size of service based on what their civil engineer, the developer engineer says, they need a water service of X, and then there's a whole business process. On the single family side, most homes today come in with either a 3/4 inch or a 1-inch water service. Their water use patterns are very well behaved in that, indoor water use in the wintertime, outdoor water use in the summertime, based on the size of the lot, hence our Rule 7, the way we allocate water based on that. In the single-family arena, prior to 1988, it was illegal to install a water meter on a home here in Reno. And back in the 1990s, Sierra Pacific Power went through a process we call the meter retrofit process. As a result of that drought from 87 to 92, we started converting single-family homes to have meters. When we became TMWA in 2001, that program was accelerated. At that point in time, you have these older homes, which were at one point flat rate. They used a lot. A 3/4 inch flat rate single-family home in the early 2000s would use twice the water as a single-family home on a meter, 3/4 inch, to the point that, yes, that price signal does encourage that conservation. Now, over the last 25 years, we have seen, as everybody's gone to a metered rate, they've tightened up their irrigation, their usage patterns have become much more predictable and well-defined, and single families are not using the water that they used to use at all service sizes. So in terms of the larger, that 1/4 inch, that came over from Sierra Pacific Power. It used to be a flat rate water service at one point. And it's a very, very large lot. There's a couple 3 inches. These came over to 2 inches. Since 2008, we've only installed like 80 2-inch water meters in the single family arena. So it's just not a common installation. So you do have, but when we look at their water use patterns, just because they have the pipe, it doesn't mean they're turning on the spigot. And so you look at irrigation, commercial, multifamily, each one of these classes has a different water use profile and impose a different cost on the system. And so what the cost of service does, it says, okay, you need to collect X amount of dollars from each one of these customer classes. And then the rate design is how do we collect that money from each customer class in the fairest way possible. So in the single family case, we found those larger meter charges did not line up very well with single family compared to commercial. Consequently, what did line up well was a little bit more in tier 3. Whereas in commercial, you only have the uniform rate per 1,000 gallons. So it is a little bit of an art form, and it's a little bit of a policy goal, but the idea of affordability for single family, holding that customer charge line as affordable as possible, and keeping that tier 1, which is indoor water use, aligned up fairly well. And so I hope that kind of gives a little bit more clarity here.
Yeah,
And
and
that-
I want to just reemphasize one thing on again, back to the affordability. Single family residential, we have 100,000 customers with a 3/4 inch meter. They're going to see a reduction in their meter charge for a 3/4 inch meter, and they're going to see a reduction in their tier 1 water use. So those customers will pay less for their water. And that's, I think, where we're going to see the customers that probably need that type of savings, they're going to get it as part of this. They're going to pay less for their meter charge, and they're going to pay less for their first 2 tiers of water use if they even go into that second tier. So I want to emphasize that that's what this does. That's 100,000 customers in the single family residential category. 120 total in single family residential, about 140,000 total, including commercial, multifamily, and the others.
Thank you. Member Taylor has a question for you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to ask a real simple question of Matt, and I'm going to ask you to really talk into the microphone because it's a little bit hard to hear. In the simplest terms possible, in the shortest amount of time possible, I'm okay with this, but I really just want to get to the core of what is your recommendation? What is the reasoning behind your recommendation for this? Because when I was going through the materials and I talked in my briefing a little bit, I wasn't necessarily hearing some of the challenges that my colleagues are. I understand what they're saying, but what is going to be like the impact dollar-wise to multifamily, if you can get to that? But just getting back to the core of what this item is, why were you recommending this, if you could, please?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Member Taylor. So at the end of the day, our policy is that we cannot have our customer groups cross-subsidizing each other. And that comes down to how much it costs to deliver water to each of those customer groups. The cost of service study is a very detailed study. Ken mentioned it is complicated. I think, though, we did it in probably the simplest way that you could, and that was a large part due to Catherine's help on it. So we looked at what it actually cost to deliver water to the different customer groups. And then how do we ensure that we're collecting the revenue according to that cost, that share of the pie? And that's where we come with the rate design changes. And so our policy—
Just real quick, I'm going to jump in, Matt. That to me lends itself to the equity conversation and the fairness of trying to do this across the board. Am I understanding that correct?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
100%.
Sorry, continue.
And this is based on best practice as part of the American Water Works Association, AWWA. This is what water utilities should be doing, and that's what we did.
I appreciate that. So I'm good with that. I just wanted to make sure I was clear and not moving away from what my colleagues were talking about. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Look what a great job you did in terms of timing and succinctness with Member Taylor's request. Any other questions by anyone else? Mr. Anderson?
I guess the same request as Member Taylor. I don't expect that you need to go into half an hour explanation on this, but you started out talking about this as implementing best practices. And can you just give us a brief description of that evaluation of what brings this to a best practice?
Yeah, so the American Water Works Association has published something called the M1 Manual since the 50s, and I think I even brought it last time and showed you guys. It's a textbook, and it lays out how water utilities should ensure equity in their water rates, and that's exactly what we're doing here today and what we've done. And it's a big undertaking to do it. I think the way we have done it, we'll be able to replicate this in a more periodic basis than we have in the past. Looking at every 3 to 5 years, we'll be able to do this again and make small tweaks to it as things change over time. But those best practices are in place and they're across the board for water utilities across the country. This really is commonplace, and it's a very prescribed way to do this.
Nice and short.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Alexis here. I just wanted to commend the staff. I know this is a difficult process. I feel like we've had a really good discussion, and I am convinced that this is the way to proceed. I think that we've vetted all possibilities, and I really appreciate our public commenter coming out to object, because I think it forced a really good conversation for the board. These are difficult conversations. We're not going to be perfect with this. This is not like a razor blade, sadly, because we've inherited all these old water systems and people have transferred from commercial uses to residential uses. And I feel like the staff have done everything that they can to make sure that this is fair, and also reducing costs on our working families. I wish we could do a bit more reduction on multifamily. And I know I brought that up to the board before, and I know that the staff are looking at that, but I feel comfortable. I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Dorr.
Yeah, thank you. I have a couple more questions and a comment. one of your charts, you showed how many people were in each of these meter classes. Can you go back? I'm not sure where I find it.
I don't think I have it in this presentation. It is
Well,
in
I
the
saw it. You
packet.
had like all these hundreds and then you had like 500 some and then 2 and 1 for somewhere.
That was
Oh,
Mr.
well, could we
McNeil's.
borrow that for a second? If it's from you guys.
It is.
The reason where I was confused is, are these ones, the 500 that are in 2-inch, 543, the 1, the 2, are those including just residential or is that residential and commercial and irrigation? What is that?
This is all single-family residential.
Just residential?
Yeah, on this table here.
Okay, well, it does seem like, I mean, it does seem a bit arbitrary to assign everybody the same price at 1 inch. I think 1.5 has a lot more, well, no. The 2-inch has a lot more. So I don't know, I just wanted to understand that. So that's just residential, okay. Then the other thing is that I could support this for this hearing, but back at our jurisdictions, we all have a different way of having hearings. So in Reno, where Miguel and I are, and Kathleen up on the Zoom, in our very first hearings where we work through everything, and the second hearing's almost de facto, yes. But what I'm concerned about still is this apportionment and what the principle of it and what it does, what it says. And I'm wondering if we didn't do that aspect, go from 33 to 43% for the base rate, how that would affect anything. Like if we just didn't make that change. We kept it like 33% is your base, 67% is based on your water use. That seems like a fair division to me. It doesn't impact anybody low income. They're already paying it. It's not a change. And you've already reduced their amount potentially per 1,000 gallons that they pay. So they should be in a good shape. Is it possible you can do that analysis and bring it back for the second hearing?
Well, I think that's really the foundation of the cost of service study. The study pointed to, we need to recover 43% of our revenue through fixed
So
charges.
I was hoping when Mr. Anderson asked the question, not just we're following standards, but that you would have said that you would have said, well, see, in the AWWA, they want you to have a higher base rate. That would have been is that true?
Well, no, not necessarily. It depends on the makeup of your utility.
Oh,
And it
right.
depends on your actual cost as a utility and what it takes to serve
Well,
customers.
what's so unique about us? I mean,
Well, I don't know that it's unique.
oh,
But based on what we looked at from our capital costs, our operating costs, and what of those costs we determined are related to capacity. How much does
Right.
it take to just keep water in the pipes?
Right.
That's fixed, that's the fixed cost
Yeah.
portion.
but it's a policy decision still, whether we're going to acknowledge that. I hear what you're saying, but I do want to understand a better answer to Mr. Anderson. It was short, but I didn't think it got to the meat of it. Like, if you're saying after we did the analysis, what AWW recommends is a higher base rate to recapture a higher percent of fixed cost. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, based on the way we did the analysis, which was in accordance with AWWA, it said we should be recovering 43% through fixed revenue.
Yeah.
And that's what the rate.
So a lot of times there's easy calculations like that a group has put out, but then there's reality of the people and how it hits home. And so I'm still not sure it's the right way to go. Are you saying that this going from 33 to 43 accounts for most of the change? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's a big portion of the change. Yeah, I think so.
And you're also saying that you're not going to recover more and you're not going to recover less. You sought to recover the same.
Exactly.
And you also said, though, that you were embedding in here basically a rate increase of sorts. Can you?
Yeah, so that's an important clarification. The rate increase is part of our scheduled, planned, general rate increases that are already in place. 3.5% has been scheduled for May of 2026.
And is this when this would take effect?
Yes.
May of 2026? Okay, I know you had that on that bulletin
yep.
bullet. Well, I'm still struggling and I would love to understand more. It seems high to me. Again, I established this principle with the power. I still believe in it. I still believe that it's important to shift more of the burden to use rather than fixed cost. I just do. It's a principle with me. And I went so far as to write letters, testify, and go down to hearings for MV Energy on this point. So I don't want to just like abandon my principles and say, well, suddenly water, and I'm on the board, it doesn't matter anymore. It still matters to me. So that's kind of where I am. I don't want to vote against you, but can you come back and provide some impact if you didn't go to 43%? Or, can you give me more information?
Yeah, I think I think what would be helpful is to maybe go through the details of the study and maybe with you
I'm willing
directly
to
and
do
then
that.
bring back, yeah, what would be appropriate.
I'm just also telling you on principle, I'm not very comfortable with this, even though AWWA, and who is in AWWA? It's a lot of engineers who are all doing calculations, who are not elected officials, who are not necessarily representing people. They're doing what makes logic sense to them, right?
I went to a training, AWWA rate setting training 3 years ago.
Okay.
And one of the most important things that they talk about when setting rates is what locally should you be doing. So they do consider that. I will say absolutely.
But the manual that you're following doesn't say, well, how are things in Reno and Sparks and Washoe County, Nevada?
Sure.
Or even in Nevada?
Mr., I think we might have someone who might shed some additional.
More light,
clarification.
great.
Thank you.
Stephanie Morris for the record. I just wanted to be clear because the NV energy rates going through the Public Utilities Commission, that's a for-profit. And the calculations and the things that they do are quite different than TMWA, which is, not for profit. And some of the reasoning and some of the rationale where you're almost like doubling or higher the base rate that we were seeing in what NV Energy proposed, there's a lot of like black box in terms of the modeling and how they do that. For here, all of that is available and how the calculations and the fixed rate, we're not playing, and I'm hesitant to say it this way, but there's not this uncertainty that the PUC and others have about what goes into NV Energy's model. And so I understand the comparison, but it is quite different. And I just wanted to make sure on the record that we sort of all understood some of those differences.
Well, here's what's quite similar, if I just may
May I
respond.
just real quick?
Yeah.
Would you be so kind to state your name and your position?
Stephanie
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no
Morris,
problem.
I'm outside counsel for
Can you do it
TMWA.
one more time?
Stephanie Morris, outside water counsel for Turkey Meadows Water Authority.
Sorry to interrupt.
You're right that we are essentially acting like a governmental agency run by 3 governments. And they are a for-profit entity. However, they are governed by PUC. Both organizations are providing a critical service to people. Water and energy are, part of life today. So to me, they're both essential mainstream things that people at their home have to have, regardless of who's providing it. And they're regulated to ensure they don't overcollect. And you also know that they're regulated to ensure that their profit is restricted to this, not this, right? So that's why I think it matters. You do make a good point. They were tripling the base rate. We're increasing the base rate here 30%, not 300%, right? So I think that is important. So I think that is your best point. So anyway, I'd like to support this, but I would like the more information before we have the final vote.
Do you have anything you'd like to add, Mr. Zimmerman?
No, I think that would be good, just to sit down with Member Dorr and talk about it before the February, the second reading.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussions? I think we really went through a few things. For me, I think that it's really important that the points that have already been made, that essentially taking all of these different components and then recalibrating everything. But the fact that we are using a standard, the fact that we are utilizing a best practice and really weighing these decisions from an analytical and data-driven best practice method, I think helps support what I don't think anyone is ever going to get to a certain extent where everything is perfect. And when you have this historical situation, whether it's pipe size or all the entities that were once all independent that now are into TMWA, I think that there's just a lot of complexity factors. I'm going to support this based on the expertise and the very thorough analysis, the process that can be supported by all of this. And I do think the attorney who just shared that, you know, comparing things is one thing, but really comparing apples to apples and giving Ms. Stewart the opportunity to have more detailed information, or any other board member for that matter, I would encourage them to reach out to Mr. Zimmerman to arrange that detail. If there aren't any other we have Mr. Martinez.
Thanks so much, Madam Chair, for indulging me. I just had one quick question. I know we focused a lot on the single family customers. I wanted to see if we could talk about the changes in the COS for multifamily residential customers. Can you walk me through that? I know it's not in your slideshow, but it looks like on our agenda book in page 124, some of that is laid out. Can you walk me through some of those changes that you're proposing?
Sure. Yeah, so for multifamily, this chart shows that they're proposing to go from 6% of the pie to 8%, so more collected from there. And that comes down to the larger meters that some of those units, some of those buildings have. And so what we looked at was, how do we equitably split those meter charges among all the units within the building? And we initially had focused on the meter charge, but instead of that, we wanted to do it on a per unit basis. So that is one thing that we're changing, is we're taking the revenue that needs to be recovered through that meter charge, and we're charging it per unit so that all the units are paying the same. So those customers will see an increase. I think on average, we're looking at about a $12 bill per month per unit. But again, multifamily is difficult for TMWA because we don't bill the individual units. We bill the complex or the landlord. And so we don't necessarily see how those charges are passed through. But in our analysis, we were seeing, from an $8 to $10 bill going to $12 bill per month for multifamily.
So that's like a 20% increase or 30% increase. It's just a lot.
So you're saying the larger the complex and the more units it has, the higher the fees are going to be?
Yeah, because every unit will pay the same sort of fixed charge, and then they have the tiers as well for the complex itself, which is based on 4,000 gallons, 2-tiered, and that's not changing.
But now to clarify, that doesn't necessarily mean that every unit is going to have an increase. It just depends. Is that correct? Would that be a correct
It does
statement?
depend.
I just, because the way you just explained it, I just wanted to make sure I understood that it doesn't necessarily mean that every single unit is going to increase. The overall would have an impact, but
And again, it
just depends on where they fall, and it goes
Well,
back to that chart.
Yeah, so they are going to go, the multifamily as a total customer group is going from paying 6% of the total to 8% of the total. And then, again, we bill the landlord. We don't know how those, and I've talked to some landlords trying to understand how those water fees actually hit their tenants, and it varies. Some of them don't even pay attention to how much water they're charging their tenants. Some of them pass it straight through. It does vary. And I know there is some legality around that too. But yeah, in general, we wanted to make sure that what we're charging the landlord is based on the amount of units that they have for that fixed charge.
So currently the rate depends on the meter size, if I'm reading your chart correctly, and you're going to just straight per unit per month.
That's right.
Regardless of what the meter size is.
Yes, that's right. And the reason for that is that we had discrepancy. We might have a building with 3 units, but a big meter, and then we had a building with 10 units and then a smaller meter. So that was totally inequitable across the actual units that were in that complex. And so we said, a per unit charge is much more fair and equitable across all of the actual tenants.
And I think similarly to some of the comments that were made about single family homes and the usage being seasonal, we have some of the similar, maybe even more continuity on the year based on multifamily, because the outdoor irrigation and stuff, or the outdoor irrigation typically is a lot smaller than what we see for single family homes. And you're usually you're looking at the appliances and whatever fixtures they have within the complex. I think I've expressed this to you all in previous meetings, whether it's on public meetings to this board or in private meetings with you individually, but I am concerned with how these increases will be passed on to each of the residences. I know we don't have any oversight within Truckee Meadows Water Authority to look at that, but I just wanted to make sure I put that on the record that there is some concern from my end based on how each of these landlords will take these increases and affect those folks that we have on fixed incomes and how it's going to impact their day-to-day lives.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say is any tenants that want to know how much their building, their landlord is being charged for water, they can contact TMWA and we can give them that information through a public records request.
I have one comment on that. Thank you. I support my colleague here. I'm extremely concerned because if you have a home, generally you can afford a little bit more. And if you live in an apartment, generally you can afford less. And some apartments do have a pretty big outdoor impact. You know, they have grass, they have trees, and I love it, but it does increase water use at that property. But when you say you have no control, I'm not sure I actually agree with that, because in other places I've seen, they outlaw gang metering for buildings. They require individual meters per unit so that you can control your cost at your place. And maybe, you know, and it depends on the size of your family maybe, you know, and whether you're in a 1, 2, or 3 bedroom unit, how many family members, but we know people don't use the same amount of water. Some people just let the tap run, some people take 20-minute showers, and some people take 5, et cetera, et cetera. And I really don't think it's a right answer to just say we have no control over that. I think either TMWA or the jurisdictions in our building codes could require not gang metering, meaning just 1 meter at the whole building. Other states require individual meters for units to get at this issue. And so whether it's at the state, our local governments, or even a TMWA rule, I think we could actually address it. So it's just something for you to continue thinking about, because we continue to have lots of new buildings, lots of new apartments being built, you know.
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of discussions. Again, this is a first reading, and I think one of the consensus items that seems to be resonating is the opportunity to meet with staff, to have these deeper discussions and look at, you know, clarifying that. So I am not trying to limit participation from the members for discussion, but unless there is something that hasn't necessarily been discussed or something that you feel is important, I'd certainly welcome that opportunity for discussion or questions. Any questions? All right. So we thank you for all of the detail. More to come. But we're now going to move to public comment.
Matt, did you need an approval?
Do we do that now? Yeah, move to refer to a second reading, or do we do that after the public?
Well, I
second
was
round
going to
of
do it
public
after the public
That's fine.
comment. Is that okay?
That's perfect.
I would prefer that, Madam Council, if it's just, I think, helpful.
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to call Mr. McNeil, if you would like to come up, please. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, I was very interested in the discussions you had, and I think you all had some very good questions about this rate study. It's complicated. It's hard to understand. There's a lot of things to think about, and you really have to spend a lot of time looking at it to get a grasp of what's being proposed. And Member Dewar, I understand about your meter, that when you moved in, it was there. I don't know what size meter you, 1.5, okay. And I heard Matt talking about lots with 1.5 meters that are small. That's not fair. I agree with that. But then why not cap your reduction at 1.5 meters? I don't recall Matt saying anything about 2-inch meters, that there had been any research to determine if there were a number of 2-inch meters which were much larger than what the customer needs. I don't know. And certainly the 3- and 4-inch meters, I've heard no comments about, well, those are too large. larger than they need to be. I kind of doubt that's the case, but I don't know. So I just think you need to ideally, take a better look at the meters, the meter charges, and what you're doing. I just think that there's a better solution than what's being proposed. And additionally, that cost is, although you can say it's not that much, it's not the same for everybody. It's an increase in what people pay for water. So the more water you pay, the more you're going to have an increased cost. I think the average is a little bit more than $6.50 per year per customer. Well, that doesn't seem like a lot, but still, it's the principle. You're shifting a cost onto someone else that they have nothing to do with meter sizes. And I don't think that's fair. So if you could take another look at it, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. You have 39 seconds left. You sure? Thank you so much. And I'm sure you'll be having lots of conversations with Mr. Bowman. Any other public comment? Thank you. So I'll move now to ask for a motion for this first reading as presented. Someone like to make that motion?
Make the motion to refer the proposed rate design changes to the second reading on February 18th, 2026.
Great.
Second.
So on first reading, there isn't a second requirement? Oh, see, everybody does things different. So at TMWA, there's a second read as, okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
One no.
Who is a no? Mr. Martinez, I apologize. You know, I didn't hear you. You whispered. But just like the help with the triple zeros, I had so much help with the no. So thank you. So that motion carried with one no. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close that public hearing for item number 11 and now move to item number 12, which is a presentation of the Truckee River Fund activities for calendar year 2025.
Good morning, Chair and Board. Sonia Folsom for the record.
Cara Steelen for the record.
Before you, you have the calendar year 2025 Truckee River Fund Advisory Committee activities. Listed are the projects that they approved. 16 projects were approved in 2025. One was canceled, the Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation, and those funds were returned to the Truckee River Fund. A high level, since inception, 239 projects have been approved by resolution, a total of 17.6 million. Total match is $31.3 million. And in 2025, fund expenses were, including administration fees for the Community Foundation, was just about $561,000. And for the spring 2026 RFP cycle, which is currently open and accepting RFPs, the available amount is $270,000 approximately. Most of the projects that were approved this last year are returning recipients: Sierra Nevada Journeys, Great Basin Outdoor School, Friends of the Nevada Wilderness, City of Reno, Truckee River Watershed Council, doing restoration up at Independence Watershed. And then the new one that we received last year was the Reno Food Systems, where they're improving the watershed at,
Alum Creek.
Alum Creek, thank you. Along Alum Creek, which is a tributary to Truckee River Watershed water. Yeah. Without any questions, please let me know.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sure, Ms. Storr.
When are the applications for the next year?
They opened it January 5th, and they keep it open for 1 month.
So it's about to close?
It's
or-
about to close in the first week of February.
Okay, thank
And
you.
that gives the advisory committee members to review the RFPs and submit questions to the recipients in advance of the February 20th meeting
Okay.
of the Truckee River. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Member Hill or Taylor, do you have any questions?
No, Madam Chair, thank you.
Mhm. Member Taylor, you have a question?
Member Taylor had to jump off.
Oh. Okay, thank you. So wonderful to have so much help.
We're jumping the gun here.
Okay, well, you can jump up and then come back. So we'll close item number 12.
Okay, thank you.
And appreciate it. Thank you. Move now to item number 13, General Manners Report. Mr. Zimmerman.
Thank you, Chair Andriola. So first off, I wanted to send our condolences to the family and friends of Joan Schaefer. So Joan passed away unexpectedly in December. She retired from TMWA in 2021. She was a customer service representative, but she had dedicated many, many years. She came to TMWA from Sierra Pacific. So our thoughts and prayers go out to her friends and family. And she was a really dedicated employee and will be sorely missed. I wanted to point out in the GM report, we've added in the water rights section just a graph showing overall will serve applications, just to give you kind of a sense of overall development activity. So kudos to Eddie Qualieri for putting that together. Yesterday, I talked to the chair briefly about it. There was a dig into our large main near Circus, and so the north tower had to be shut down for a period of time. But thanks to our crews and the work of the distribution group, they got the main fixed and back in service by about 8:30 last night. So thanks to them. A reminder, we'll have a brief closed door after this meeting, just to quickly run through some things. And then lastly, bittersweet, but I wanted to let you all know that Miss Folsom is going to leave TMWA. She's going to go back to Canada and pursue a different career. So wish her all the best. She's been a great hand for me to have in the time I've been general manager and even before. And she provides a ton of resources to everybody at TMWA. So it'll be a very hard time to find a replacement. But she's given us until early March. And so it gives us a little bit of time to have some crossover and a little bit of overlap. But I'm very happy for Sonia and just thankful for everything she's given TMWA.
So does that mean we'll see Sonia at another TMWA meeting?
February.
Which means that we have plenty of opportunity to ask some really enlightening questions and, plenty of time. But I do want to say you're going to be greatly missed. And I worked with you prior to even being in this capacity and this adventure I'm in now. And I look forward to coming up with some questions at our next meeting before you leave. But thank you. And thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. And thanks to the staff for really being responsive and really turning around that situation so quickly. Does anyone have any questions for the general manager?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I just wanted to say I'm so saddened to hear about Sonia moving on. We got our master's degrees together at UNR in public administration, so we go way, way back as well. So hopefully if there's a celebration, board members will be invited to that. I would like to be part of that to celebrate her service. And I just really appreciate all the work that you've done on behalf of the Water Authority and for our community. I know you're deeply involved in the Truckee River Fund and all of the work that we're trying to do to improve the Truckee River. So thank you so much for your work on behalf of our community. We're lucky to have you when we did.
Thank you. And again, Member Anderson.
No questions, just first, Sonia, I'm happy for you, but it is sad.
Bittersweet.
I truly appreciate what you do in herding the cats, feral cats. You do an awesome job, and I'm glad that we get one more chance to spend time with you, but congratulations. And then just had a comment on the will serves. Thank you for sharing this because I really think we've got a have a good idea of what we're seeing and trending. And it's helpful to have that with providing that information. Thank you.
Any other comments, Ms. Dorr?
Well, I couldn't let this moment go by because I too feel the same way as the rest of the board. I mean, you know, you're one of those virtually irreplaceable people. I know they'll replace you, but what you've brought has been so unique, so thoughtful. You're such a caring person. You've been so helpful to me, everyone, that, you know, that is hard to replicate. You might find someone with an MPA. They might have a good history even with TMWA, but they're not you. You are special. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, hearing now, we'll close then general managers and move to public comment. Do we have any public comment?
Anyone online wishing to speak, please raise your hand. Online, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We'll move now to board comments and requests for future agenda items. Anyone? Ms. Hill, do you have anything?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move for adjournment at 11:29. And just a quick reminder that we are going to be in an attorney-client. Where are we going?
We're staying.
Okay, thank you.
We're staying.